Yo, what is good, guys? It's James here, back with another video, and today we're gonna be talking about the main issues with Deepwoken. But yeah, make sure to like and subscribe because I'm just gonna get right into this. But before I even start, I want to say if I sound like a robot, is because I'm reading this off a script, and I usually don't ever script my videos. But I'm gonna try and start getting into that. And also another thing is this video is not just gonna be me complaining about how Dex and Agamatsu ruined everyone's build with the Shrine of Order nerfs. That's not going to be this video at all. But yeah, let's get straight into it. So the first main issue that I see with Deepwoken is the updates. Now, it's specifically what happens after the updates. The content every week is very nice and it keeps the game fresh. So right, there's not a really big problem with that. It's more so what happens after those updates drop. For example, there's a lot of bugs that come with every Deepwoken update. Even though they say a lot of bugs get fixed, which I don't see it at all. For example, there's still a bug where if you M1 monsters, they still do a little shuffle backwards and it cancels their swing animation, so it makes it extremely hard to tell what move they're using. And another thing is the balancing. All right, Deepwoken has a huge balancing issue, and I'm not gonna lie, it is very bad. For example, I'll just give you some things that are really unbalanced. Attunementless medium, actually scratch that. Attunementless in general is just insanely busted, and it's somehow been top in the meta since I don't know, maybe 2024. It's just still been the meta for top 250, right? Another thing being heavy upper crit. Heavy upper crit is insanely busted. Iron Hug does a lot of damage. For example, it can do 2 bars on the right build, which is just out of this world. And the throw mantra, I don't know if you guys still know that, but the throw mantra still is busted as hell. It confirms almost anything after its usage, even after the nerfs, which is just insane in my opinion. So, right, Deepwoken has, for the main issue, it has a really bad balancing team in my opinion, and I don't know how they let this happen, but bugs just fly through these updates. It is insane how many bugs drop along these updates. Now, I'll be honest, I really can't, there's nothing we can really do apart for the bug fixes except for just, I don't know, maybe encourage the game testers to work a little harder. I don't know if they really are crunching in hours, going overtime, making sure the updates are good. But from what I see and what I experience, it's some bullshit. All right, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's just every update's extremely buggy. All right, and I hate to say it, but it really is. Now, for balancing, there's only really one way that I thought of how they could really, I guess, maybe balance, I guess at least chime a conflict. And I would say to make a sub-department of testers, all right? So mainly the testers consist of just people who are experienced in game testing, who are able to find bug fixes or just bugs in a game. But creating, I feel like, a sub-department of just PvP testers, right? Who would test out new stuff or just test out stuff that is just what the community thinks is broken and see if it really is. Now, this department of testers would consist of I'd say 5 to 10 top 250s, and then maybe 1 to 20, or not 1 to 20, but 15 to 20 1k elo and above players, people who are mid ladder, they're not good at the game, but they're not super shit at the game. They got a grasp at what's good at what's just skill and what's kind of not. But then the top 250s also have an idea of what's busted in top 250 ranked. So I feel like creating a little group of all these testers combined together and having them work it out and actually going and seeing what's really busted in Deepwoken would actually help, and it would bring multiple perspectives to the table on what is actually busted in Deepwoken. So having these multiple people work together, I feel like would be a very fair and justful way for everyone to kind of get their saying in what's broken in Deepwoken. But I digress. Moving on to the second issue is this is a little bit of a smaller issue, but I feel like it's the identity of Deepwoken. So for a lot of players who played in verse 1, they can tell you that Deepwoken used to be a very hardcore game with a very mysterious aspect, and it felt like an actual hardcore permadeath game, right? But you look around Deepwoken today, and I'll be honest, as someone who has been playing since verse 1, I'll tell you this now: Deepwoken is more like a sandbox. All right, sure, it does have the permadeath system, but realistically, the permadeath system does not really count when you can just farm bosses for Idol of Young Shul and then ask Young Shul to escape depths for you. And I won't lie to you, The depth trials are not really like, I don't know, something you would expect in a hardcore mysterious game that this game, you know, it claims to be, right? You would expect, you know, the higher level you get, you know, the more drowns you get, there would be different mobs, you know, new shit that you would have to learn and adapt to. But realistically, it's just them adding new mobs that you've probably already fought, but they're just corrupted so they do more damage and have more health. Now, this is not that bad of an bad of like a thing, you know. Having very hard mobs to defeat in a depth trial once you're like, I don't know, 20 drowns is a good idea, but like it kind of gets boring after, you know, defeating like the 5th corrupted bone keeper. I'll be honest with you, it is not that hard, right? And another thing about Deepwoken's losing identity is the PvE aspect. All right, so for those who don't know, Deepwoken is a predecessor of the game Rogue Lineage, which was a heavily inspired PvP progression game. For example, you had to kill people to get chaotic for chaotic classes, and you had to jail chaotic people to get orderly classes. So it was very heavily inspired on PvP and not PvE. Sure, there was a PvE aspect, but people who played Rogue Lineage will tell you it is not, you know, good. Everything needs to be cheesed. If you tried fighting more than like, I don't know, 1 shrieker at a time, you were practically fried. But that was the identity of Rogue Lineage. It was a more PvP aspect progression. Deepwoken's main goal when coming out or in the direct was to become a quest-based, you know, game with a lot of heavy PvE aspects in the progression. You look at it now, and sure, it is definitely PvE, you know, progression based, but you look at the type of PvE progression it is based. Tell me now, like, I'll be honest, like, I swear to God, I'll be so surprised if you can comment this right now and tell me, like, if you have progged a full build without going like trial of 1 and then straight to Airtel to do jobs in the modern day. All right, if you aren't, like, that is really just what Deepwoken PvE is about now. Like, I mean, yeah, the bosses are there, like, but that's really for endgame. Like, you're not progressing to, like, maybe like you do a chaser or like a duke or two to get Bell, but apart from that, like, when's the last time, like, I don't know, you farmed the ferryman? Like, when's the last time you went and explored and fought the ferryman? Like, realistically, never. So, right, the main issue with this is just Deepwoken losing its identity and becoming more of a PvP based progression, which, I mean, it's fine, you know, some people like PvP progression based games, but it's not, it's like kind of detaching itself from its roots. All right, it's not originally supposed to be like that. So, right, an idea I had kind of this, right, to make Deepwoken a hardcore aspect game was to add this new island. All right, now this wouldn't be any ordinary island. It would be in the overworld, but it would be insanely huge. All right, this would be a lot of walking. You would want a mount. All right, even though the mounts are kind of shit in this game, you would want one because of how big this map is. Right, new mobs. All right, this would have to be like a big update. All right, this would not be like some weekly update they could add this in. This would have to be like some really big update. So, right, new big island, new mobs, new everything, new quests, new shit we have not seen before at all. Right, but there's something different about this island, and this island has extremely good loot. Like, I'm talking, like, you beat like a mob here, there's like, I don't know, like 3 relics in 1 chest that they drop. Right, that's fucking crazy. Maybe new artifacts that they could add that drop more relics, and then who knows, maybe like the astral meteor event could be added. Like, it's a higher chance it spawns. So yeah, this shit sounds all crazy, and like, you're like, damn, yo, James, how the fuck, what is this adding? This is just getting more relics to boost your progression. How is this making Deepwoken a more hardcore game, right? So my idea was, when you die here, you're wiped instantly. It's like depths in overworld, but the thing about wiping here is you cannot buy back. Now that just might have blown some people's fucking minds, but I'm telling you, this would be a fire idea. I'm just saying, this would be cool as shit. High reward, extremely high risk. You don't want to fucking wipe, and if you do wipe, guess what? You cannot buy back. All right, this is the new Void Zone, Void Zone 2. All right, this is some dangerous shit we're stepping into. All right, this is not no, you know, like layer 2 expedition. This is worse. All right, maybe new bosses there. That, who knows? That would be pretty cool. All right. But I digress. That's the second issue with Deepwoken, is its current identity issue that it's having. But I digress. And we're moving on to the last point. All right. Now, this would not be a Deepwoken is cooked video without talking about the new Shrine of Order. this is a very short topic, so just stay with me here. And like I said, I'm not just gonna shit on, you know, Agamatsu and Dex and be like, my Shrine of Order build that did 1 combo 5 bars is nerfed. It only does 4 bars now. Like, I'm not gonna be like that, all right? I'm just gonna talk about how Dex could have made Shrine of Order obsolete instead of, you know, completely gutting it. Not, I wouldn't say completely gutting it, but gutting it the way he did. So, right, hear me out. Here's how I would have done it. Add a new shrine that gives you a pretty good buff, right? Like, this is a buff you'd be like, damn, I kind of want that shit, right? And it's an RG chance. It would give you a random just buff at an RG chance, right? So an example would maybe be like, your M1s are 20% stronger. That's fucking crazy. Silent Heart players would want that. Or like another example I came up with, for every investment of intelligence, you gain 15 ether. Now that's just fucking crazy. Imagine the 90 fucking intelligence builds. Do the math. That's like 900 ether, bro. That is literally insane. Right? But here's the catch with this shrine. This shrine can only be used by people who don't go Shrine of Order, right? There could be some lore, you know, that works on maybe like they're brothers, and then like, I don't know, one of them like Shrine of Order just like cut his bullshit in half, because that's what Shrine of Order does, right? So maybe they just hate each other, all right? That could be some lore. And it would be a really good shrine, all right? They would have to add some buffs, so right, you would actually consider going it instead of like, I don't know, because like, right, everyone goes Shrine of Order, all right? That's just the short end of the stick, all right? Everyone goes Shrine of Order because it's just genuinely better. Now, I know Agamatsu said that the reason they did nerf Shrine of Order is because they wanted to decrease the power creep that has been upcoming in Deep. Now, I know adding a new shrine that just gives you another buff kind of does add to the power creep, but another reason they wanted to nerf Shrine of Order was to also increase build diversity. Now, I feel like having a shrine that gives you an RNG chance of giving something that could heavily boost your build or heavily nerf it would actually add some build diversity and would actually make players consider not going Shrine of Order instead of just, you know, making everyone's build kind of poo-poo instead, right? But that's just my idea on how they could have done, you know, differently with the Shrine of Order. But that's really all I had to say. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and make sure to like and subscribe. And I don't know, I think I'll be going live sometime. I might be streaming like Rogueblock, Deepwoken, or maybe like Rogue Lineage, because I've been getting a little bit better at that game, but I'm not sure when. I'll probably announce it in some other video. Make sure you tap in, and also show Agamatsu my last idea, all right? Send this shit to Agamatsu. Believe it.